Hey guys, just wanted to show some of the new features of the 0.4.0 beta. So as some of you have already seen, we've got these new controller UI buttons. They're a little bit more obvious. I probably do need to add some kind of textual hover states that tell you what these do, but I'll go through that here. So we can select the object type with this top right button, the top button on the right controller. So we'll choose hit zones for now, and then we'll just place them with the plus button. So we can add some hit zones here, and then I'll actually add a couple morph zones too, and then maybe we'll throw in a text label as well. So we got some stuff around here. So one of the things you might want to do now in this new beta is you can group things. But to group things, you need to be able to select them. So the first thing we can do is select some of these objects. So traditionally, to grab these objects, use that grip button. You just grab them, you move them around, whatever. But if we want to select multiple, we hold down on the grip button, and we do it outside of the zone. So we grip once outside of any zone, and then we move into each zone we want to add. And we can move into one we've already added to remove it, and everything we add gets like a white outline. So I'm going to deselect everything first by pressing the grip button outside of a zone. So I'm going to deselect, and I want to group just these hit zones together. So I've got these 4 hit zones, so I'm going to press the grip button to start a selection, move through each one of them, and now the buttons on my controllers will actually change to allow me to group these if I want. So I will move into one of the zones and then grip, and we see now I can either delete the selection with the top right button, right controller, or use the bottom button to group. So if I group with the bottom button, now these are like one entity. So I can grab any of these 4 zones and it's going to move this group. And we sort of got these, 4 corners showing on the group and sort of the center point. And you can still, 2-hand resize these things, move it around just like everything else. And you can ungroup them pretty easily too. So same thing, I grab the group, just the group, and if I want to ungroup it, I press that group button that's already lit up to ungroup. So I'll press that, and notice it actually goes back to a selection. So I can still grab all of them, and I could, add something else to the selection, like this. Grab one of them and then hit group, and now all 4 or all 5 of these objects are together. So I do really like that, ungroup feature where you still have everything selected. Now, if you have an existing selection, like let's say I've got this selected, well, first let me group this. And if I've got this selected, maybe I don't want to clobber that selection. So when I ungroup like this, I still keep the original selection intact. So I don't want to, if somebody's got a selection they've already got going, if we ungroup, we're not going to, get rid of that selection. Okay, so that's sort of like how grouping and selection are working. One thing also you might want to know about that is like I could group something and then I could also select that group in a selection and add some more things to it. And then I could make this whole thing another group. And there's still like a subgroup within this group. So it's not replace the group, but now we have, everything in one. And if I were to ungroup this, I still have this subgroup existing. So that's another sort of nice thing. Now with groups, we've also got some additions to the inspector. So I'll open up the inspector. So we can now edit groups or selections of multiple objects. And when I select something that has multiple objects like this group, at the top it'll say like multiple objects or multiple hit zones, multiple morph zones. You could have a mixed group, for example. So I could, mix these two. And then at the top, it'll say multiple items. And what's nice about the new inspector is it's going to show you all the controls for all items you have selected. So in this group, I've got, a morph zone and some hit zones. So I see the hit zone settings right here, but I'll also see the morph zone settings below. So you can sort of tweak everything. It also supports showing multiple values or ranges of values. So we've got a range of MIDI notes in this group. And so we could offset all of those MIDI notes by a certain amount. So, we could put the octave of all the notes up 1. And so we've gone up 1 octave, or, we can offset the number of MIDI notes we have. And you can drag on these sliders. That's why I've added this new hover state. As you can see, whenever you bring the pointer over this, you can drag left and right to move the values up and down, or you can use the stepper to get more fine-grained. Also, if for some reason you wanted to combine all the values together or join them, we have this join button. So if you wanted all of these hit zones to have the same MIDI note, you could just hit this join button. And so now they're all MIDI note 64. And doing that setting, I have this group, but changing that MIDI note is only going to affect these hit zones because I'm in this sort of hit zone settings area. But I could scroll down to the morph zone settings and change various things here. So the new inspector gives you a lot of power with being able to change values for objects. One super easy thing that's super helpful is the color now. So now we can change the color of all these objects at once, very easily get a group to match. So I'm actually going to ungroup this real quick. Also with the inspector, not only can you edit groups, you can also edit selections. So these things over here, I have not even grouped them, but I'm going to select all of them, and then I want to open the inspector and edit all these without grouping them. You can still do that. The inspector will still work the same way. This color is going to change it for everything. We have some label text that says multiple because we have multiple different possible. So then we'll just, we could say something like, I don't know, drums. And then, if we wanted to edit one of them, we could say drums 1. Various stuff like that. But yeah, so essentially with the new inspector, you can edit individual group items, or you can edit selections of whole items. And you can include a group in a selection by holding down that grab button and then moving into that group. So now I've got all of these objects are being controlled by this. Now, one thing with the inspector that I didn't want to break was the inspector was great at being able to edit individual objects too. So let me delete this. I'm going to create just some new hit zones to make an easy example. So these should have incrementing MIDI notes. We've got 39, 40, 41, 42, 43. Cool. And right now, when they're ungrouped, it's really easy to edit because I just, I grab one. I'm like, I want this to be, MIDI note 56, and then this needs to be like MIDI note 23, whatever. But when you're in a group, the question is, how can I still edit individual items? So maybe I have this group and I don't want to ungroup them. I still like the positioning of everything. But right now I see this range of MIDI notes and I don't want to offset it. I just want to set one of these zones to a specific MIDI note. So to do that, what you'll do is just go to the zone you want to edit and double click the grip button. So we just double click. And now it's just this zone, so I can show you by changing the color more obviously. And then I can grab this group again. Now it's everything, but I want to just edit this one. I'm going to double click on this zone, and now I can change the color there. Double click on this zone, another color. And then let's say, actually, you know what? I want all of these, the whole group, to be the same color. So I've grabbed the group, haven't done a double click, and then I just change them all. So that's how you can still be able to edit individual items. And this still works in subgroups. So if you had, this group, and then you group all of this together, you can still edit these individual items by just double clicking in a certain zone. And we still have the double click behavior where you can grab all zones if you do it outside. So if you have your hand outside of all zones and you double click, you can still move everything in the scene. So that would just, I could have everything around me, and then I just double click outside, and it will move everything. It's specifically if you want to edit one zone that's in a group, you have to double click inside that zone. So that's how that works. So we got sort of a outside double click grabs everything, inside double click grabs one. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the majority of, especially the grouping and selection features that came in this version. Obviously, you can do awesome things like, have a huge group and then delete all of them at once with the delete button. So cleaning up stuff is really quick. I'm trying to think if there's anything else new. One thing in particular that's pretty nice now in this release is, we can group something. Oh, dang it, I deleted it. See, we need an undo button. That's a problem. I need to fix that. So we could group this, and let's say I'm currently in workspace 1 or whatever, and I can move to a different workspace. So I'm going to show you the overlay. So I'm in workspace 1, and then if I use my left controller and do the arrows, the left or right stick, I'll go to another workspace, and now I've moved this group to this workspace. So I'll go back to workspace 1, I'll add some more zones. Let's do a different color so it's more obvious. Great, I've got this stuff. And then I go to workspace 2 and I'm over here and I'm like, actually, I want this group to go back to workspace 1. So again, I just take the left stick and go over 1 and now I'm back here. So we've still got, that actually makes it a lot easier to, I think, get zones between spaces. I don't even know if you could do that before at all. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful. I think those are pretty much all the new features. We've got a few things that have changed in menus, like the rename of this feature at the top. Before, I just had it badly named and didn't make sense, and I think people were confused. So hopefully this makes a bit more sense. But there is this setting where you can send the current MIDI state. So like MIDI CCs, especially, you want to do this sometimes, is when you load a project or you initiate a connection with the computer, you might want to automatically have the CC messages sent out. So if I had, a few morph zones, and let me make them like we got a slider or whatever. Let me just do it with one morph zone. So I've got this slider, and let's say my project is saved at this state with, the morph zone is at this position of the CC. When I load the project, it would send this CC so that the DAW you use, your music software, would be in sync with the current state of MoveMusic. But some people don't like that. Some people would rather, have it catch whenever or however the DAW behaves whenever this sends. But sometimes, you might want to send some initialization data. So by default, this is off, but you can turn it on. And anytime you want, you can always send the current MIDI state to the DAW with this button. So yeah, if I just wanted to make sure that the DAW had all the CC settings I currently had, the toggle states I currently have, all that kind of stuff, if I want the DAW to be up to date with what is in MoveMusic, I could just press that button at any time. Cool. So I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, thank you for using MoveMusic. I'm really excited to see more of the stuff you guys are doing. It's always super fun to see performances. And I'm also excited to share some performances with you guys soon. So thank y'all so much. See you guys.